Minagoya be namakota jemacha NAKON'I'A techina.
Amba washde, NAKON'I'A, neake, nemia, Theresa owach. Amba nen, ahuabi ungarabikt. Inche ahuabi, jeish. Ahuabi, winkni, chomba bikt. Good afternoon, everyone. It's me again, Theresa. Thank you for joining us. Today we are going to do a small batch of, I said not, it's called a bannock. Not oven bannock, but grease bannock. Oven bannock, ik je ahuabi spa, jeish. Ahuabi, winkni, chomba. That is bannock, lard, cooked. So that's your bannock cooked in lard. I'm just going to go through some of the some words that we you should be familiar with because they've been in your word list. But because I'm going to use these words today, I just want you to be familiar with them. So I'm just going to write down a few words here that we're going to be using today. And one of the words we are going to use today, kishkana. Yogapti shkob. Yogapti. Tanga. Stusten. Mini. Chashmuyab. Ichapen. Awodabi. Winkni. Woda. Woda bikt. Injun. Jonach. Remember that word? Jonach. Injahi. Remember that word? Injahi. Washpa. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to washpa. We are going to cook today. Washpa. Checha. Maza. Oshedi. Shoga. Maybe you don't remember that, but shoga is to be thick. Ahuabi numna. I'm going to start up here again. Uyabi basaga. That was a new one. I had a rough time. Ayuabi basaga. Ayuabi basaga. And I think our last one is nadaboha. And mnaska. Now, and imahen or mahen. Or I'd say imahen. I'm just going to quickly go over these words. Kishkana. Oh, I didn't write Kishkana, Iogapti Shkob, Iogapti Tanga, Stusten Mini Cham Chashmuyabi, Ichapen Awodabi, Winkni, Woda, Injun Jonach, Injahi, Washpa, Chera, Maza, Oshedi, Shoga, Ahuabim Numna, Ayub Yabi Saga, Naska, Imahen, and Imahen. Okay, I've just returned. I went and washed my hands. You know how you're supposed to in Nambeyu Jajawo often? Well, it's good to wash your hands before you cook as well. Jechen, Nwana, Ahuabi, Ungarabikt. Ahuabi, Numna, Injun, Doba. Doba Injun Ahuma Waji, Num, Yamni, Doba, Yogapti Shkob, Imahen, Bapsu, Jechen, Inadoboha, Num, Kishkanana, Num, Waji, Num, Chen, Stustena, Jonach, Paps, Iogapti Shkobne, Imahena, Papsuo, Neish, Shashmuyab, Ake, Jonach, Shechen, Daya Injahiwo. Nina Daya Injahiwo, Shechen da Ahuabi, Washpachen Daya in Bohakt. Mix it up good. That way when your dough, your you abi basaga chen bokt. It will rise better. Okay, wana in jahi dayachen meni ish aruabish iogapti shkob akid nen inchu jechen ne menija papsuyankt. Mini Medina injun wayan wanji ish hare. I would say use 1 1/2 cups of water. Put a little bit more in there. I'm not making a very big batch of bannock today. I'm just giving you the basic idea. Now, jechena injahi, daya injahi wo injahi stena yuabi basaga naingt. Ne injahi wo daya injahi wo. Nina, In chapen, wanji? Wanak nushta ne yuabi basaga ne wana daya wana wanak nushta chen ne yuba babi basaga ne. Chen chara mazane o shedi agan inchu chen winkni ish hare ne imahen put it in there chen shno sten kada sten ahuabinen imahen ushpawankt. Ne, we're gonna just let the dough sit for maybe about half an hour. It's called resting it. That way it'll rise. So we'll let it rest for 15 minutes. Okay. Ne, wana kada otink. Wana kada. Okay, I'm just going to rub a little bit of shortening, winkni, nambe, it won't stick to me. Well, I was going to make big ones, but I won't. Ayuba abi basaga ne wanashpaya. I used shortening today for my winkni. Neish shoga. It's thick. Oh, you see that? I just will put my dayashpa. Then you just wait for it to turn nice and brown. And I like to use lard to put on my hands, or oil to put on my hands. Because if you notice, if you use flour and you put it all out and then you cut it, I see some women, they put it all on top of the table and then they flatten it out and then they cut it with a knife. It makes my oil dirty, and I like to save my oil. Like, I like to use my oil more than once. Like today, after I'm done with my oil, I'll put it in a container and I'll seal it up and I'll put it in the fridge for the next time that I'm going to make some ahuabi winkni chomba ne. I will use it. Because we don't have a stove, we're doing it on a burner. I'm just going to flip these around so they brown evenly. And they look like they're just about ready to turn over. Sorry, made my bannock too big for my oven. I got it turned right up, but you can use oil. I like to use the canola oil because the smoke point is higher on the canola oil. If you use vegetable oil, your oil will probably burn. And lard. I would make it just a little bit browner than ninaska. I would like to probably make it just a little bit browner, but because of time, I'm going to flip it now. It is cooked. And there, wahambi, champa saba wahambi yuha, niha yuha. Oh my, these are looking so delicious already. And it's too bad I don't have anybody to sample today. I'm just kidding.
I'll sample it. Camera guy will do it. Well, if I have to.
I like them a little bit browner. I'm going to take this one off though, you see? And then you put it on a napkin to absorb all your excess oil in there. Let's put this in the middle here. When I was a little girl, the next one I'm going to do it like my mother did if I can get it off this table. When I was a little girl and my mom made bannock, my mom would make wheels. Now, I don't know if I'm not using oil, so I think it's going to stick to this table. But my mom would make wheel bannock for us. And she'd take a knife and she'd cut 3 slits down the middle like this here. And then she'd put it in here. Oh, I busted it. I find that if my dough is sticky like this here, it makes a better bannock. It makes your bannock fluffier, I find. You know, some of you are probably seasoned bannock makers out there who don't make their bannock like this, but this is just a simple recipe. I don't put any shortening in my bannock. I don't use any eggs. I just use the 4 ingredients, which is the chashmuyab, mini, shtustena, inada boha, and ahuabim numna. All 5 ingredients that I use in my bannock. I don't use any oil because, well, we're cooking it in oil and it's, like as you can say, it's going to be pretty greasy. This one, I don't know, we should have left it hot when it was steaming. Ahuabi spaya, ahuabi winkni chomba, jetchena, champa, wojabi, agan in I just say it in English. Then you can put some Saskatoon jam on top of it, and it's all yours to eat. I have a gentleman, an older gentleman back on Carry the Kettle, who tells me that when he makes grease bannock, he'll make it in, you know how pancake batter looks, where you pour it in. That's how he makes his grease bannock, and he says that he makes some of the fluffiest grease bannock ever. Maybe that's something you'd like to try. And it's always good to have your oil nice and hot before you put your bannock in, that they brown faster. You don't want your oil too hot because then the outsides are cooked and the insides are not. I've had bannock like that. I've bought bannock like that. I've made bannock like that. One time I made bannock, I forgot to put the inada boha in, and even the dogs wouldn't eat my bannock because it was so hard. And after a while, even if you're not a very good bannock maker, you'll notice that after you practice a little bit, you know, practice makes perfect. Just like Nakoda, when you're saying these words, sometimes you don't say inada boha right, and sometimes after you practice and practice, it'll come to you. Shtushten. These words, the Nakoda words, if you practice them, especially the guttural sounds and the stops, it'll come more naturally for you. Some of the, like, NAKON'I'A, I remember that was such a, I didn't think I could ever learn that word. But now I'm good at it. And the numbers as well. I didn't think that, I thought the numbers were going to be so hard to learn. As you saw from our past lesson there, the numbers are very, very easy to learn. You can host your own bingo at home with your children. Oh, look at that.
How do you say made with love?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nina Techina Magaha. See, look, see, you notice after you let it rest, you see how it nice and puffs up? Look at how fluffy that bannock is compared to that first one there. I let it rest for a few minutes and look at it, it just fluffed right up. And that's just from the baking powder. I only use these 5 ingredients because that's probably what my ancestors used. When I was a young girl, we didn't have a lot of, we'd never had yeast. We always just used baking powder. So I imagine for a lot of the older people, this is the bannock that they would have grew up on, with just the 5 ingredients: water, sugar, salt, baking powder, and flour. Because this is the only thing that my mother ever used to make a bannock, was those 5 ingredients. I always think that if you're using yeast, it's not called bannock, it's called fry bread. You hear that sound? That's the sound of grease bannock frying. Rip off all the excess grease.
A CTK love story.
Not going to add to that, I'm just going to make my bannock here. Intuition ko. Doenisha. Chagad ingje doenisha chandeyu ha ko. When chabi jay. I hear that. There's nobody to carry the kettle that has a heart. The men anyway, I said. I'm just kidding. They'll be banning me.
Oh, yeah.
Chande baksa chen. Hiniga. I have a broken heart, that's why I'm mean. Wayne should have been here. He's got some good ones about those. Yeah, it seems like it cooled down. The grease cooled down quite a bit now. You know, when I first started cooking, and you see all those cooking shows where they don't care how the pie crust is, or they just make it like, I was always that cook that wanted everything to be perfect. But I mean, tastes just as good. Doesn't matter how it looks. It does actually look really good today. It's better. I like it. Now that's kind of like a decent pie, a pretty good batch of dough, because it rose up pretty nice. See how, you notice how it fluffs up as soon as it hits the grease? And that's just your baking powder. Oh, this makes the best taco shells, this kind of dough. A few more minutes. I'll pack this up. Pack up by Winkney, see? I don't know if I remember if I mentioned it before when I make my bannock. You seen I use 1 teaspoon of baking powder for every 2 cups of flour that I use. I've never actually sat down and did a recipe, so I wouldn't know about the water content. I just usually eyeball it up and it usually turns out fine. I have made bannock many times though, so I think I started making bannock probably when I was 10 years old. I probably made my first batch of bannock even when I was 8. So I've been making bannock for many years. Many years. I'm just kidding.
Back in the
Yeah. 19
We signed Treaty 4 and made bannock.
1927, we start taking our pallets out and smashing our flour. I'm kidding. I don't know why 1927. I'm going to leave that one. I'm going to let it get nice and brown. Yeah, a few more. I just like to keep turning it so that it browns evenly. This, our stove, our Oshedi is pretty good though. It's a nice even heat. It's just that we're a little lopsided. Ahuabi winkni chomba. Ahuabi winkni chomba. Shechen wodawo. Amba washte yuha.
Minago yabe namakota macha NAKON'I'A techina